I did my project on the 2010 eruption of the Eyjafjallajokull volcano. That is the probably last time I'm going to say that name, but it's in Iceland. And yeah, the volcano is located on the southern side, almost on the southern tip of Iceland. You also notice that the volcano is on top of a divergent boundary that will come into play later in the presentation. The entirety of the eruption of the volcano actually lasted around 39 days. The volcanic events started in March in 2010 and started as a single eruption, but then later divided into phases. The first eruption in the first phase ejected a certain type of lava far into the air. This is known as an effusive eruption. Ash ejected from this phase of the eruption was small, only rising a couple miles into the atmosphere. However, on April 14th, the eruption took a much larger scale and entered the next phase, which is an explosive phase, and ejected a glass-rich ash over 5 miles into the atmosphere. The ash cloud from the eruption actually covered many miles and many different European countries. This was actually a direct effect because the volcano is directly under the jet stream, which causes the ash to travel at a much more rapid pace than a volcano that's not under the jet stream. So that's a reason why it covered much of Europe. So, to go into a little bit of what caused this disaster, like I said before, the volcano is located on a divergent boundary. Iceland is a very active country when it comes to volcanoes. This particular eruption of this volcano was not caused by converging or diverging boundaries specifically of two boundaries colliding, but it was actually caused by a triggering in chain reactions of expanding magma chambers that descend deep into the earth below the volcanoes. So once the magma chambers expanded, it caused fractions, which then caused too much stress on the volcano, which eventually led it to erupt. Now to talk about some of the effects on the population and economies surrounding the volcano. It released approximately 150,000 tons of carbon dioxide each day for a total of over 5.5 million tons in the 39-day eruption period. But due to the reduction of air travel caused by the ash cloud, it actually saved an estimated 1.3 to 2.8 million tons of carbon dioxide from entering the atmosphere during the March and April eruption. I think that's a crazy stat, given that airlines can actually release that much carbon dioxide, but that's nothing compared to what their volcano released. A study concluded that actually 6 to 9 months after the volcanic eruption, residents living in the exposed area had increased prevalence of physical symptoms, and a portion reported that there would be long-term physical and psychological effects. Some of the economic and social impacts and effects include airline travel due to the eruption and the ash cloud. All airports in Europe and surrounding areas were shut down for a good period of time. The bottom left picture is a funeral of the leader of Poland. Due to the eruption, there was a lot of other world leaders that were not able to attend the funeral, so that was an effect. The top right shows the dispersion of the ash cloud and shows actually how far it traveled from Iceland, went all the way in a good part into Russia and the rest of Scandinavia, and also the United Kingdom, and a little south of that as well. And finally, the bottom right picture just represents the soccer team in Iceland. It just shows that a lot of sports and other popular activities, social events were canceled due to the ash clouds. So if this type of event were to happen again in a similar area, obviously the area and countries affected by this first eruption would know what to do in case of an emergency. I mean, the obvious answer would be to just not live directly near a volcano of this scale that we know is not dormant. Um, that could affect the communities surrounding the volcano. If you're going to shelter during an eruption, there are some main things you need, such as flashlight, first aid, emergency food and water, just essentials like those. But I'd say the main and most important thing, if you know you're going to be impacted by a volcano, is going to high ground. Going to an elevated area is very important and could very well save your life, because if you're in a low elevated area, then the lava could trap you in your shelter, wherever you're sheltering in place, could even potentially bury you. Here are the citations, and thank you for listening to the project on the 2010 eruption of the Eyjafjallajokull volcano in Iceland.